back to Creative Juices. Today we have Bob Girardi with me, and I've been following him for over 10 years now. We met in Cincinnati at an international art show that we both made it into by the skin of our teeth. No, but it's a great.
It always feels that way. Like, I can't believe it. I can't believe I got in there.
Yeah, every show you're like, oh. Yeah, until that one time that you really don't get in, you're like, wait a minute, why not?
It's funny you say that. It started off, as a young artist, like, I can't believe they got me in there. It's just unbelievable. And then, you submit to some magazines, like, they don't know what they're doing, do they, over there? No, I have not reached that level of cockiness and hope I never get there.
Right. No, that's so funny. So,
in fact, I'm honored that you asked me to be on the show, because I know you've interviewed some really big name artists. So to be included is really an honor. So thank you.
Well, this last year I've been watching you, and you're in 423 magazines, and I just wanted to catch you before you forgot my single letter name. So
yeah, sure. As a kid, I was always fascinated with art. I'd see something, it's like, wow, how did that person do that? That's just so beyond me. What happened there? How to try and reverse engineer it in my head, and then I try and draw it. And I was getting more and more successful as a kid, and then that gained more and more momentum. But most of the things I was inspired by were in magazines or movie posters, or when I was a kid at Atari 2600, the cover art for those games just blew me away. So I went to school to be an illustrator and graduated. And just as I was graduating, the illustration industry went through a big change where they were going and buying from stock houses instead of getting original art from illustrators. So I was like, oh man, what am I going to do now? After a serious panic attack and many sleepless nights, I turned to the fine arts and galleries, and have just been, one foot in front of the other, and the starving artist days, and oh my goodness, what am I going to make this work? And then just keep going. I mean, it's what I'm born to do. So there really was no backup plan. So I've always been fascinated with the wetlands and marshes, and there's this kind of, you're invited, but you're not supposed to be there. So there's almost like an emotional tension whenever I'm around marshes. And this time I got to actually kayak into them with my friend. And I was so excited. I was showing him all the footage I got and all the reference material. I work from photos for reference almost exclusively, because you can see they're pretty tight. So I'm rely on the photos. And so I was showing him, and I was getting all jazzed up about it. And he says, hey, why don't you just do a show out here? I was like, okay. So we're in the process of working that out while I create the work and create the videos for the show, as well as social media to promote it. So that's really exciting. I'm super pumped about that. Born and raised on acrylics. It's all my high school had. So I got used to painting in acrylics. When I was in art school at Syracuse, they had something called media arts, and they wanted to introduce artists to all different mediums. People are always surprised when I say acrylic. Oh, your paintings, they look like oil paints, because I like a muted palette, and a lot of people who use acrylics have very light, bright, and tight style. And I'm kind of tight, but not light and bright. It's almost a sadness to them, like this persistence, this perseverance, where no one really goes out into these marshes, and there's a loneliness to them. And in that loneliness, I think there's a lot of beauty that can be found when you look behind the nooks and crannies, and it forces you to stop and shut out the noise, and you almost have no choice to kind of look inwards. It's interesting. I did 2 commissions of ocean scenes, and when they asked me to do them, I'm like, oh man, don't do this to me. I don't know how to paint an ocean. I've never painted an ocean before. I did them. They were extremely difficult, finished them, and I was super excited. I have to give a shout out to Adam Hall. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, a young artist, brilliant artist who does these oceanscapes. And if it wasn't for studying his work and talking with him, I probably wouldn't have been able to get to where I got to. So thank you, Adam. They came out so well and they were so well received that, like a dummy, I'm like, well, let me just do one for myself. And I do it 4 by 6 feet. You know, it's like brand new to the subject matter. Yeah. I had 2 major panic attacks doing the last 2 ocean scenes. So why don't I do it 4 by 6 feet? Yeah. So, you know, that was, I literally felt like I was drowning in the ocean. But I really liked that piece. It was, I think it has that perfect emotional tension I spoke of earlier, between beauty and sadness. So it leans a little bit more towards the loneliness, because you can't tell if the house is abandoned or not, but you can tell it's got story, and there's things that have happened there. Families were raised there. There's a tree stump in the front, which also adds to that. There was life there and it was beautiful, but now there's just a stump left. So there's a lot of different things going on there. Another one of my favorite paintings is a rusted air conditioning unit in a deserted building as it's being covered with a fresh coat of snow. And there was that kind of forgotten about place, that everyday scene. Oh, it's just a rusted air conditioner. But the newness of the snow in contrast with the rust on the air conditioner and the plywood over a cinder block, a window that's framed out with cinder block. There was something so beautiful about that. And sure enough, I pulled my car over and I went into that spot and I named the piece Even Here in Winter, meaning like even here in this sort of dingy corner, if that's the way you want to see it, there's something beautiful here. And the contrast between the newness and a fresh start over that rusted air conditioning next to the cinder blocks. I just love that tension, that emotional tension.
I also enjoyed they were Ravens, right? Did a series?
Yeah.
What brought that on?
I departed a bit from what I normally do. Is pretty tight background, photo reference. I mean, yes, I use photo reference for the Ravens and the Crows, but a lot of texture, a lot of a focus on just one part of it, and then the rest of it fading off. So that was a nice departure from what I usually do as far as technique wise. But even emotionally, I was kind of into them for the same reason. There's this beauty and darkness about them, where there's that push and pull, and it creating that emotional tension in them too. That series was called the Black series, and it started off with Black #1 all the way into the 30s, and they're all, I think I've only got like 3 left, and they were just so well received. That was exciting. I'm going to get back into that sooner or later too. I might do something called the White series, because I found some imagery of white crows, which I've never seen before. I'm like, wow, that's cool. How cool would that be to have a series, the Black series and the White series? So keep your eye out for that.
That's well, great. Bob, I really think you and I could talk forever. And
probably, yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to record this interview with me. And I will continue stalking you on Facebook.
Excellent. Same here. Thanks, Jay. I really appreciate it.